So today's article begins by saying, it might seem like an ordinary day, but there's something extra special about the trees lining the sidewalk you're on.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, I wonder what's so special about them.
Yeah, well, the article says their branches are covered in brightly colored yarn.
Oh.
Okay, so that's really interesting. We don't really get to we don't really see things like that in our daily lives.
No.
But let's first take a look at our vocabulary word branch. It's spelled B-R-A-N-C-H. Branch. It's a part of the tree that grows out from the trunk. So the trunk is at the bottom, and branches kind of grow out from this trunk. And then leaves can grow on branches, and sometimes birds might use branches to build their nests.
That's right.
We can use it in a sentence like this. We can say, we used some branches to build a big fire.
Oh, okay. Now we also saw the phrase that be covered in. We saw the branches were covered in something. Now we use this phrase, be covered in, to say that something is all over a surface or an object. We might say that the fruit is covered in ants, which is not very nice, okay? But that means that the fruit has ants all over it. Here's another example sentence. Oh no, my new shoes are covered in mud.
Oh no, they're ruined now.
No.
All right, so we see that this is not an ordinary tree.
No.
It's a very special one because it's covered in something called yarn. Now, yarn is just a really long, thin piece of cotton or wool, and people use it for knitting or weaving things. So sometimes, like maybe your grandmother, your mother, they like to knit, use sweaters and scarves.
Scarves and mittens.
Exactly. So they use yarn to make these things for you.
That's right. I have lots of wool knitted sweaters and scarves and stuff at home in Canada. It's too hot to wear them here though. All right, well, let's continue on in the article. It says, this sweet display you've come across is an example of yarn bombing, a type of street art. Now, the phrase come across means to meet or find something or someone by chance. If you come across someone or something, you don't expect to see or find that person or thing, but you do. For example, Denny came across a rare baseball card while looking around the antique shop. So he didn't think he would find this baseball card, but he did.
And so we see yarn bombing, they said it's a type of street art. Now, street art is basically art that we see on the streets and out in public. So sometimes we see a lot of graffiti. That's a type of street art. Sometimes people put posters, okay, or stickers or murals. Those are called street art.
Right. There's actually a lot of street art in Taipei.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there's street art all over the Ximending area, and I've seen some really big paintings on buildings and stuff too. It's cool. All right, well, the article continues by saying, instead of paint or chalk, however, this street art uses knitted or crocheted yarn or fiber. Okay, so in that sentence, we use the phrase instead of. We use this phrase to show that one action replaces another action. So in this sentence, we're saying that the yarn bombers don't use paint or chalk to make their street art. Instead, they use yarn. So yarn is replacing paint or chalk. Here's another example sentence using instead of. Could I have a salad instead of fries with my sandwich?
Right, so we also talked about how it's not just pieces of yarn randomly spread over. It's actually knitted pieces of yarn. Now, when you knit something, it's spelled K-N-I-T, knit. Okay, the K is silent, and it means to make a piece of clothing like a sweater or scarf using yarn or thread. And usually you have two like wooden sticks, and you kind of stitch the yarn together. So for example, we can say, my grandmother knitted a sweater for me as a Christmas present.
Okay, well, so we saw that people sometimes knit the yarn where you use two needles to kind of put it together, but it also said that people crochet the yarn. Now, crochet is similar to knitting, but it's a little bit different. When you crochet something, you use 2 needles, but they're much smaller, to make a cloth or clothing, or sometimes just 1 needle, I think. But there are special patterns of holes in the material. So when you're finished, it kind of makes what you're making look like lace. So instead of the yarn being tight together, you can see through the crocheted yarn because of all the little holes in it.
Actually, that sounds really difficult to make.
It is. Actually, my mom crochets, and she likes to sell her work because it takes her a very long time.
Wow.
And it is quite difficult. I watch her and I go, oh no, that's not for me.
So maybe we could see a piece of your mom's artwork.
Maybe someday, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so what happens is we have like little pieces of fiber that we that we knit together or we crochet together. Now, fiber is another kind of thing we can use to knit, but it's a very, very thin piece of thread, and it's also used to make things like cloth or, or paper or even our clothes as well. So, for example, this fabric is made from a mix of synthetic fibers. Now, when we see synthetic fibers, it just means that this material is not natural.
Right.
It's actually man-made, something we cannot find in nature. But on the opposite side, we can say the natural fibers allow the fabric to breathe. So maybe the person who's wearing it, it feels a lot more comfortable for them.
Right. It's maybe cooler to wear in the summer, something like that. Okay, well, let's continue on in the article. It says, these charming works appear in a number of places, popping up on tree trunks, park benches, and even buses. Now here we use the adjective charming. It's spelled C-H-A-R-M-I-N-G, charming, to say that something is attractive or pleasant, especially to look at or experience. For example, a lot of people think that small towns are charming. Restaurants can be charming, and that means maybe there's nice decorations inside and you really enjoy the experience of eating there. It's a nice restaurant to be in. Let's look at another example sentence here. It's, look at the picture Ricky painted of the lake. Isn't it charming?
I think so. It's very charming.
So we saw here the phrase a number of, and it means several.
Okay, well, we're going to continue on with another phrase that we saw in that sentence, which is pop up. Now, this phrase is today's shortcut for you, so let's take a quick break to learn more about it now.